Superchunk Endless Summer Album Review. Let's chat about it. Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Superchunk, North Carolina, specifically Chapel Hill legends, Superchunk, who in the early 90s put themselves on the map in a big way with their very angsty power pop inspired blend of indie rock and alternative rock. Albums like their self-titled album, On the Mouth, No Pocky for Kitty, are classics in the genre. And like I said, these albums are considered classics for a reason. They're very solid. Even though they're not exactly my favorite era of Superchunk, they're still worth a listen. For me, though, it's around the time of their first true classic album, Foolish, that I felt like they really got into their groove and started out on this wildly consistent run of albums. I also loved the follow-up, the super catchy, super aggressive, here's where the strings come in. Now, in the early to mid-2000s, I'm going to be honest, Superchunk kind of lessened on me for a little bit. They were putting out some albums I didn't think were the best in their catalog. I've never been that big on Indoor Living or Come Pick Me Up. Those albums just kind of made me shrug. That's just me, though. But ever since, to say that Superchunk aren't only on a roll of putting out some of their best albums would be a lie. Here's to Shutting Up has always been a major standout to me, and Majesty Shredding is so good. It is such a good album. As a matter of fact, Superchunk as a band don't seem to be really slowing down at all. As a matter of fact, if anything, they sound like they're speeding up. I've always enjoyed the very agitated I Hate Music as well. And then in 2018, they put out What a Time to Be Alive, a sleeper late year album treat for me that I thought was one of the year's best albums. And it showed them branching out, trying new sounds, and bringing on some awesome collaborators like Stephen Merritt. Yes. Katie Crutchfield from Waxahachie. Yes. Sabrina Ellis from A Giant Dog. Yes. Which leads me to this new album, which I've got to be honest, I've kind of been dreading, mostly because of the very subdued, very different sounding singles. What's kept them alive so many times over the years has been their passion, their intensity, you know, the fact that they weren't slowing down. And listen, this album's not all bad. As a matter of fact, in parts, it's quite good. Take this album, Start, City of the Dead. From a more stripped down stance from Superchunk, this is actually a great track. I love how legitimately warm this track comes off. I love Mac's vocals on this track as well. At the end of the day, yes, this is far from where I like hearing my Superchunk, but honestly, there's something really retro and feel good about this. This takes me back to like a 90s all one-hit wonder, but in the best way. The lush strings are really nice. The plucked guitars are nice too. This is all around really inviting. The title track to this album has grown on me quite a bit. It's really nice. I mean, at first I was not into this just because of the major stripped down nature, which is a wild left turn that I was not expecting. But it's not a bad sound. It has that power pop sound deep down as well. This Night, on the other hand, is just what the doctor ordered. It's a little more punchy. I mean, yes, it's still pretty stripped down, but it's got a little oomph to it. It's got a little punch to it. It's also just a very well-rounded, well-wrote, well-performed track. Not to mention, it's pretty catchy, too. Wild Loneliness is great as well. I wasn't that into it at first, but it's grown on me a lot. I mean, yes, this is a little bit heavier of a track. It does have a little bit of a punchy riff to it, but I think it's more than just that. This is just a really well-wrote tune. I mean, lyrically, it is easily one of the most beautiful tracks here. And those horns continue to be a real selling point. But outside of that, man, I don't know. I'm not feeling it this time around, and they've been on such a consistent roll in their later years, it's really hard to swallow. We get to tracks like On the Floor, and it's rough, man. This is a little too light and fluffy. The passion of this album, the tracks that were good at least, just flew out the window completely. I'm not even wild about the vocals on this track. The chorus isn't that good either. And Highly Suspect, it's not the worst track here. As a matter of fact, I went through a phase where I kind of liked it. It just lessened on me a little bit. It doesn't really excite me or wow me or give me a reason to come back to it. And that's my issue with a lot of this album. I mean, yeah, I do like the crunchy riff and the lyrics once again, but outside of that, no. I have a lot of the same issues with Set It Aside. This is just too light, too fluffy, too inoffensive. I'm really trying, but I can't seem to find a single reason to come back to this. Things don't exactly get much better in the final moments. This album is really agitating because there are some good moments, but at the end of the day, I think Superchunk kind of swung and missed this time. Refracting, listen, this is one of the best tracks here. this is easily the wildest and rowdiest track here. I mean, it doesn't have the same intensity as some of their last few albums, but it has that drive, it has that passion. But then I hear Connection, and we're right back where we started. It's just this bland, uninspired indie rock tune with some subtle nods to power pop. I mean, lyrically, it's got some stuff going for it, but outside of that, I have no reason to return to this. And If You're Not Dark as a finale is just such a middle of the road jam. What it comes down to, this entire album, what it comes down to is, I don't think the music is half bad half the time, but it's not what I aim to hear from Superchunk. That's just my opinion. This track is fine. Do I salute the crunchy riff? Yes, of course I do. That's a very average indie rock tune and a very average finale. I don't know what happened here. I mean, yes, there are some decent moments. As far as like a stripped down album from Superchunk goes, at points, this is right on the money, but for the most part, and I do mean for the most part, the bad outweighs the good here, and it is really rough and really awkward to listen to. The passion's gone at times. The drive that they really focused on for the last 10 years. These guys were on such a great roll lately, but I don't know what happened here. This album's not for me. Feel a strong 5 on this album, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know what you want me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.